listeners. Welcome to yet another show of Courage Talks. Special guest today, Shivani Kumra. Shivani's got a fantastic track record in the corporate space. She's been a sales leader, born and brought up north. She's from the prestigious Welham Girls School. Yet she took a detour in her life and embraced fitness, and that's something which we all have a lot of value on. Without further ado, I will let Shivani complete her fitness journey introduction. Welcome, Shivani.
Thank you, Hetal. Thank you again once more for inviting me on your show. It's really a pleasure to come across people like you as well. And I mean, of course, you've given pretty much a lot of my introduction already about having a North Indian upbringing. I've been in Bombay for the last 25 odd years. I completed my MBA from a very prestigious college like NMIMS. And I'm a working mother. My son is going to turn 8 years this year. And I'm very proud to be, when I tell people that I'm a proud mother and a working mother, and along with the way I look, because I come across people telling me all the time, "Oh my God, are you in college?" And I tell them, "No, it's not true. I have a child," and it feels very, very nice. Fitness has been part of my life. Actually, I was a very active student. Also, had a very active student life. But at the same time, fitness has been part of my life for the last 17 odd years, with strength training specifically in Mumbai itself. So it's like I said, it's like breakfast for me. I do it on a regular basis. It's something which I can't live without. Apart from that, I come from a nice small family where I had working parents. Both my parents were working. My sister is an actor, and my brother doesn't live here with us, but he's working now in Toronto. So we have a small little composite family, but we're a very, very strong knit family here in Mumbai.
Wonderful. That's so good to know that you got a very cozy ecosystem around you and a lot of inspiration. As you know, Courage Talk is all about courage. The story goes, it's based on the book which I wrote, which is called Against All Odds. And my dad, and its biography which I've written, and when I was discussing with him about his life, I realized he had many instances of courage in his daily life, which the outside world needed to know, and that's how the book came about. So what does courage mean to you, Shivani?
So courage for me means something which embrace any kind of situation with a more natural flair. It could be anything in life, Like when motherhood came to me, people told me horrible stories, I'll be honest, including my own mother, about pregnancy and how scary it is. But I think for me, it was just about how your mindset reacts to a certain situation and then you overcome it and embrace it. And that's what courage for me is all about.
Wonderful. Who's your role model for courage?
There are many, I would say. It's difficult to pinpoint one, but my mom definitely plays a very big role. She was a working police officer in Lucknow, in a city like that. She comes from UP Police. UP Police being a very, I'll be honest, not like Mumbai Police, very, very civilized and very nice and friendly. UP Police is quite, and UP itself is a very harsh environment to kind of grow up in. And my mother, being from the police forces there, managed 3 kids. My father used to work abroad, so he used to travel a lot abroad, and I've seen her manage 3 kids, her career, not kind of ignoring our needs. And I think that's, I feel she's one of the biggest role model in my life as a woman, especially in a place like UP, Uttar Pradesh.
Wow. That's no, I'm very sure of that. I'll definitely come back to your mom. But so we know enough about you today, Shivani.
Yeah.
Take us down memory lane. What was childhood like? What was growing up like? And what was the little Shivani like?
So little Shivani was very notorious. I'll be very honest, very naughty. I'm known. The stories I hear from my uncles and people around that I was called a little terrorist. Taking Leo toy guns and running around people. Maybe it came a lot from watching my mother having her guns and her pistol. And for me, there was no such thing as fear. I grew up pretty much as a very fearless woman, and also academically also I was quite strong as a student. I would just say that I grew up as a very idle child. I have done everything by the checklist, by the, what Indian parents expect out of their children, especially the firstborn. I'm the firstborn. So taking responsibilities, ensuring good in studies, ensuring a good career, getting married on time, having children on time. And this all came part of my, growing up, watching family as a, part of lifestyle along with managing work as well. And yeah, like I said, as growing up, I was quite a naughty child.
Little Terrorist, the Leo gun reminds me of my own childhood. And I used to be so fond of it. And I grew up in a very simple childhood, so we didn't have enough toys, right? So every toy used to be like special, right? Like would go to
Yes.
sleep with it next to you.
Yeah, I used to look forward to my parents, especially my father, traveling. So he used to travel a lot abroad, and when he used to come back, there are two things I would take from him. One was the currencies, so little coins that I
Yeah.
would collect from various countries. He had a little currency collection, and the second was always toys or something new to kind of not, I wouldn't say show off, but it was like with a sense of pride that my father's come from abroad. A lot of, because he would hardly stay with us. So yeah, it was. I can totally imagine, but yeah, and guns were like the thing, especially going up in a city, in a place like Lucknow, UP. I think it's a very different the way girls grow up. I think my mother probably encouraged a very different alternate ways of growing up.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. This podcast is becoming really special because collecting coins was my hobby as well. And I
Oh wow.
was just looking at my collection, I was like doing kya karoon iska, because obviously my daughter is not anywhere close to being interested in, at least for now. I was like, what's going to happen about all the hard work that I put in collecting these?
No, I see my son already getting curious about it, so I'm quite
Okay.
happy, and maybe we can share that kind of interest.
Boost that. Keep that spirit going. You mentioned about your mother, CBI officer. I'm sure there's one story which you would love to share about her incident experiences, any bad day at work that she had.
She's okay. So, I mean, as a police officer, there are parts where, I mean, one was where she was in Lucknow, in various places. She was in the police. She was also part of the police women's thana
Okay.
back in Lucknow, which is in Hazratganj. I don't know if it still exists today, but she was very much there. And I've had stories from her where she's had, women, notorious women come. And I mean, I'll be honest, I've heard stories of third degree and nasty ones, which was also not very nice to know, but at the same time, exciting because as a woman, for me, I mean, my mother going and hitting someone was a very big deal
Mhm.
again, as a woman, because it's part of their
Yeah.
lifestyle. This is what they are taught about a lot. So that is about Lucknow. And in Bombay, I've heard stories. One very interesting one was a raid of a custom officer.
Okay.
And my mom, so during these raids, she couldn't tell before the raid where she was going. Not to the family, not to anybody, including my father. It was not allowed. It's it's very, very secretive. And she used to go very often, but this is very interesting. She went to office. She called up my dad and said, "I will not be coming back for the next 2 days. We will be out on a raid, and you take care of the girls, the kids around, and I'll be back in 2 days." So he said, okay. And I didn't see my mom for 2 nights. I mean, it was not very common because I was
Yeah.
much younger. And Lucknow, of course, she used to be mostly around.
How old were you when?
I must be around 13.
Okay.
Yeah, it was quite young. And my father just told us that she's gone. And we were like, okay, I mean, you're just curious to know where she's going. And after 2 days, she came back very tired. And we were like, very curious to know what happened. And she said there was this custom officer who, there was a tip and there was a bribe. And we had to go raid this person. And she went to their, he had two addresses where they had to raid. So one house they didn't find anything and they were like, oh shucks, such a disappointment. But the second one they went and they started searching their place. They couldn't find anything in the beginning. But they saw in one particular attic, there was this one little something which was coming out, and they said, open that or break it and open it. And there were bags that came out full of money,
Oh
must
my.
be around, I think, 3 to 5 crores or more. I don't remember the
Back
amount
in those
honestly.
days,
It
I'm
was a
sure it was
big
a big.
amount and it was a huge success. So yeah, we came back and she was very happy, of course, because her job was well done. And yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, we've had, but of course, many such little stories to share. But yeah, very exciting.
Yeah, no, no, I'm sure we hear about all this on the media all the time, but to know
Yes.
someone who's actually gone through or was part of such kind of a raid is always amusing and interesting to hear.
Yeah.
That makes sense. You have had a pretty successful career, I would say, and sales is a tough job, and you're hearing it from other salesperson. So I can understand the kind of challenges you have gone through. If you could narrate any interesting incidents in your work life where you had a tough decision to make or you went through something tough, which really made you be courageous.
I mean, so when I'm part of the fragrance industry for the last 14 odd years. And I started off very young with my first company, and then I came to the second company. And my second company, the first company, I was handling more globals. So it was a little different field, different, environment where there's a lot more priority given to globals. But when you come to handling local companies, Indian companies, specifically entrepreneur led companies, it's very, very challenging. And being a very young salesperson, of course, it's not about somebody doubting you, but handling things in a certain. I was a very young girl, say around, must be around 28, 27, 28 years old. So this is how I would dress up even to work. I mean, I'm not joking. Little dresses, because I was in fragrance industry, where in the creative world, you look pretty and nice. You're in perfumes, that's the aura that is built around, and that's the way you present yourself. And I come and my boss says, you'll have to handle clients back in the South and in Kolkata as well. And these are very traditional clients. So the first question was, how would they perceive me? Because I'm too modern to be accepted. So not easy, of course. And I kid you not, I was the only sales girl that time, apart from my business director, who's a woman. But going out in the field is much more different because it was more client facing, client servicing. And yeah, it took me, of course, one was ensuring that I try to accept the environment, the kind of clients that are there, understand what their needs were, and cater to their culture as well. Because culturally, the South is very different. Even the East is very different. They're not like the West. They're not like a Unilever where it's very process oriented. You have to be more flexible to be able to adapt to their requests and interests. And so, I got this account where the client wanted to kick us out. And it was pretty nasty and scary because my first meeting, the client said, you guys are not doing a good job. You better pull up your socks. You got to buckle up. And I said, okay, you know what? And I kid you not, I got just about pregnant that time. And I was like, oh, shucks, because I was scared because it's my first baby. My doctor said, I have to be careful while traveling. And Kolkata traveling is not easy because it's a 3-hour flight almost from Mumbai. I used to do morning evening flights to be with the clients on a very regular basis, almost every week. And I got a lot of wrath at home because, there could be miscarriage or whatever. There were a lot of discussions over it. And not everybody was, of course, including my husband, they were not very happy about it. But I had to see what kind of, what I expected from myself. Of course, one is proving your might, your skill set in the field, because my career has always been very important to me. I worked very hard for it. And again, but also at the same time, I had to balance it out. So I figured out how to, I took the instructions from my gynecologist, how to manage the whole thing with, of course, traveling. And you can't tell for the next 3 months or 4 months to people that you're pregnant. So you secretly do it.
Yeah.
Only you and your family knowing it. But yeah, all came to a good end where I've managed the account pretty well. It was it was a good success story, I would say. And I felt very proud of myself, but of course scared at the same time. I traveled till about 25th or 26 weeks, something like that, for my travels with my pregnancy, the big pot belly. But yeah, we did it. It was quite nice.
Wow.
It felt very, very good.
I'm sure it must have been challenging. It's much more easier for you to narrate it now, but to go through that obviously would have been a different experience. Being a mother is not easy. I'm sure of that, right?
Yeah.
Anything would you like to share as a mother? What's been your challenge?
The first challenge is it's not about your child judging you. It's about people outside. I'll be honest, it doesn't matter to them what I do or what I do for my family, because at the end of the day, I'm providing for my family. It's people outside who judge you all the time. And that's one of the most challenging part. I've had neighbors very concerned come and ask me, oh, how does your child live without you? And, it makes you feel very guilty at points, because I travel a lot on work everywhere. And I've always been traveling. My son was just about 5.5 months when I started touring internationally as well as locally, domestically. And I was very much judged by people around. So that is definitely very difficult because your kids forget. They don't remember. They just know that when you're there, they're with you. So yeah, it's not easy, and you keep getting judged as a working mother. So it's very, very tough. So you have to tell yourself, you have to keep constantly remind yourself, why am I here? What am I doing this for? And ultimately, it's between me and my kid or my husband. and nobody else. It matters to me.
Yeah, that's definitely there. And as you rightly mentioned, judgment, you typically can ignore other people's judgment, but at some point of time, it does get over the top, and it can get really nasty as well. Tell us about your fitness journey. What's it been like? What's the source of inspiration? What motivates you to do all that miracle stuff that you do at the gym?
So my fitness journey, like I said, is around 17 years. I started with my second year MBA. When I was at college, I was lucky again. I'm a localite. I'm from Mumbai, and NMIMS was not very far away from my home. I was in Andheri. This college was in Juhu. And after college, instead of just chilling and whiling my time at the campus with friends, I wanted to do something more productive. I was an athlete in school, so I've done my long distance running. I was in badminton, part of the team. I've done trekking. So school kept me very active. But I realized coming back to Mumbai, travel was a big problem. Also, your motivation changes. You constantly start focusing on your career, and I don't think people around you tell you how to take care of yourself from a mental fitness also. And I
Yeah.
think this is what struck me. I was a skinny little girl. I'm very petite to look at. If you don't see my if you don't see my shoulders and my arms, normally I look quite petite with full sleeves clothes. People can't make out that time how big I can be. And I was very much skinnier that time. In fact, I would say I was underweight. And there was a time when I just said, you know what, I want to get back to fitness. It never mattered what I wanted to look like. It's a different thing that once I joined and most of us, and I've heard stories from people saying the same thing. The first gym that they joined was Gold's Gym. Those were
Yeah.
the most, active and popular gyms around. And it was very close to my house. So after college, I would travel to the gym and then back home. See, you don't have responsibilities that time so much. You don't have to cook. You don't have to clean up. So I just made the most of my time very productively. And I started working out in the gym. I did many things. I mean, when the gym told me you have all these things to explore, I was most inclined to strength training. I have no clue why, what made me pick it up. I just found it the most exciting part of the whole gym experience and never looked back from there. And what motivates me to keep doing it is the way I look, the way I feel. Of course, the idea of being muscular was not the only intention, but also muscle building is something I started more, reading about it, exploring why women should strength train, what is in it for me, how will it help me or benefit me in the long term. And once I started reading about it, finding out, researching about it, I started just getting more and more curious, and I started exploring many ways of working out with strength training. Of course, now that I've grown up much more, when you become a more, I think age really helps to understand what a certain type of exercise or a certain style will help you to do or feel. And I think this is what makes me keep trying new things in the gym. I wouldn't say miracles, but yes, sometimes it can be very stupid because I've hurt myself. But sometimes I just said, you know what, I think if the technique is correct, maybe it'll work.
What have been the major injuries that you faced?
So, not very proud of, but the two major injuries I've had is a rotator cuff, which is my left shoulder injury, where I couldn't even lift my hand up for a longest period for almost 2 to 3 months. It was very painful, but I've got a good orthopedic surgeon around me and a good physiotherapist, and they really, really helped me to boost my morale to get back to normalcy. So that's the first one that happened almost 3 years back, I would say.
How did it happen?
So, of course, like I said, you learn when you grow up and learn from your mistakes. I was doing a snatch and did not realize that, I mean, for a snatch, there's something like shoulder mobility. So I never did mobility training, you can say 2 years before. It just started coming to me very, very slowly. And again, I'm not very proud, I would say, because I had that injury, I started getting more curious. How can you prevent injuries? And mobility training was the solution to it. And I started adopting it, and I continue to do that for all my exercises, before any of my exercises. And that's what it was, a snatch I did. I went back to work. I said, thoda sa pain hai, a little bit, and must be just a muscle pull. The muscle pull did not get okay for the next 1 week. 2 weeks, I was like, I ignored it for a month. I did regular exercises, but not lifting too heavy. But honestly, it kept getting bad. And that's when I realized something is wrong with me. And I connected with the orthopedic doctor that who I know. And we fortunately said he thought probably a shoulder bust, but it was
Right.
not a shoulder bust. I just got lucky. And he said, just rest it out and, couple of more physiotherapy sessions and exercises, you should get. But it took me 3 months to come back to normalcy. It was not easy. I mean, I would feel so bad for myself because even to not be able to do a push up,
Wow.
I mean, that is sad for me because I feel very proud for me as a hybrid athlete, I think the push ups that I can do, I'm not going to boast about myself, but I've seen there are a lot of people, in fact, 80% of people I cannot even tell that they can do push up like that. So that was very, very sad. So, yeah, that was a one major injury. And the second one happened just 4 months back. It was a back injury. I was traveling abroad and I think I did a very high jump which impacted my bone, my L4 or L5, something like that. A small protrusion came out, and which was very, very, very painful. I kid you not, this was even more devastating than my shoulder injury. And I have no idea what did I do wrong, but I think it was more like jump, which is a very high impact jump. Their pull up machines are very high, very, very high. I don't know why. I mean, it's too high. I don't even understand how such tall people even exist. But it was UK, and I was like, but I don't see so many tall people around. But I jumped from there and it packed it pretty badly. And I continued working out. I didn't realize. It's the second day when I realized the pain was pretty, pretty nasty. And I came back to India, got myself checked up, and the MRI done. It was not a pretty picture. My doctor said 1 month. Then he said maybe another month. I told him, chuck it, 4 months. I'll give myself to figure out, to recover. And yeah, I'm getting back on track. But yeah, it took me 4 months to get back on track.
Wow.
Oof, it was terrible.
Yeah. The other important aspect of courage is mental courage, and that's taking risk. What's been the biggest risk that you've taken in life?
Biggest risk I've taken, I would say my workouts only, I would say that. With snatches, is where pull and snatch when you do, those are quite risky. I am not doing it off lately. So, yeah, that's one of the biggest risks I've taken. And very recently, I did another one. So, I went to Uttarakhand for a trek. Not a trek, sorry. I went to actually with my parents and my son to do a Gangotri visit. And because it's very beautiful out there, Harshil Valley, it's gorgeous and it's got little treks around. And unfortunately, nobody could come with me because, my parents are very old. My son's too young. He was a little scared and he didn't want to do it. I said, you know what, it's okay. I'll go by myself. And I started on 2:30, finished off around 4ish. And I was all alone doing the trek. But, it's scary because you think of many aspects. You're like, oh my God, what if I fall? And nobody there because I have no network in places like these and nobody to watch you. So there's nobody to tell you, you'll be all right. I think for trekking a lot, and this is where I realized you need a little more moral support. You need somebody to be around, maybe just to kind of encourage you or say that it's going to be okay. And I was like, oh my God, what if I fall off a cliff? When I was coming down, I realized how high I was. And this is quite risky. And yeah, when I told my husband about it, he's like, we need to have a chat.
What's the risky decisions that you've taken in life, whether it's at work or your personal life?
At work, yes, I'll tell you, to be honest, so a lot of my career, I was in a global company. I worked in global companies. So in our fragrance industry, we have global companies. We have many companies. I was in the top 2 or 3, you can say, the number 1 and number 2 fragrance houses. And very recently, just about a year and a half, my mentor, who heads the business here in the Indian company I work with S. And it's an Indian company. It has a 100-year-old legacy, but it's an Indian company. And I think as a career, it was a very big risk I took switching from a global company, an international house, which is Swiss in the culturally, the processes, everything very different style of working, to an Indian company. And I had a lot of senior people from the industry call me up and said, career suicide and God knows what not. In all fairness, they were just concerned about me because they watched me as a very young girl grow in this industry. And in our industry, it's a very small industry, very niche again. And people tend to know each other because they know you from your work, from the relationship you build with the clients. So they look at you very differently. And also, relationships really matter here. So people just tell you things just out of concern. It's not because they envy you or they feel bad for you. It's so I got a lot of wrath from a lot of people. But honestly, I mean, it's one of the best decisions I've made. No regrets here. But yes, it was a very, very risky decision to take, switching from a global house to a Indian fragrance house.
Yeah. No, I'm sure about that. I've done that myself as well, and I realize what it means. Risk is also about vulnerability, not letting your emotions, not holding back your emotions. Can you describe an incident where you could not hold back your emotions?
Okay, I mean, I'm a woman, so I mean, I
It's
won't
all the
say
more
that.
difficult for women.
So yeah, it's very difficult because you have to. The sad part is, you have to constantly, and especially, I think if we do this to ourselves, we want to be showing that we do excellent in everything. I'm the best at my work. I want to be the best as a mother. Constantly trying to prove ourselves, and it's not. It's sad and it's scary because you're just scared. What will people think if you fail? What will your family say? It's a lot of pressure. It's just that we do this to ourselves constantly. We want to be best at everything. I'll be honest, I want to do that, all the time because I'm constantly trying to prove myself, like best sales, best mother. I want my son to be proud of me. I want the house to be run by me, to the extent where my mates would call me up when I'm in a critical meeting, even in different countries, and say, Didi, kya khane mein banana hai? you know, you get those calls and you're like, there's a person at home, please call that person and ask. Why
Yeah.
should I be doing all of this? But then you do it, ordering groceries. So it is very, very scary. And so I think 2 years back when I had my injury, and I think vulnerability come when maybe you're hurt the most. So one part of me was really broken because when my I got hurt, I could not even lift, right? So fitness was a very, very far-fetched part of me. And when you can't, that's one part of you which makes you who you are. And when I got injured, because I could not lift, but I was doing other things, it just made me feel like I'm a nobody. I mean, I was working well, I was doing everything. But that part of me, because it's such a big part of my life, I sat down and cried for hours, saying, how could I do this to myself? What went wrong? How stupid could I be? I couldn't lift my kid. 3 years back, my son was around 4 years old. I could lift him till about 5 or 6. I can say that. Today, lifting him is not that easy. He's a big boy. Although sometimes I make an exception. But yeah, even lifting my child, I felt useless. And I think that's when I broke down. And I said, I don't care. I'm not going to let this happen to me again. So I worked hard to get back on track. And of course, like I said, mobility is something I've made part of my life. You learn from those mistakes, but I really, really broke down that time. It was not a very pretty picture.
I'm sure it must have been tough. Any book or any movie which you would want to cite as an example of courage?
So I very recently read this book called Tuesdays with Maury. I thought it was a very nice book on courage. It's about embracing age also. A part of it, a small part of the book. And I think I'm really, really inspired by it. I mean, there are two books actually, not this one. It's also, there's another book. So I had my baby. It's not easy when you had a child. Been through postpartum depression. You're by yourself and alone at home watching the baby, taking care of the child. You're on your mat leave. The only person you have around constantly to talk to is your nanny. I was lucky I could hire a nanny, and she was the only person around me. Nobody else to talk to. You're doing everything by yourself. You're not slept. You're tired. Your work. You're missing out yourself. And I read this book called The Secret. It really helped me to understand, to figure out what I want from life. And I really believe, ask, and receive. And it's been my mantra for like almost 8 years now. And I've never given up on that. So definitely something I would encourage people to read if they haven't. You don't have to take every part of it, but you have to see what works for you. Made me a very strong mindset person also, I would say that. And the second book, like I said, Tuesdays with Maury, and age. When I turned 40, people were like, oh my God, you've turned 40 years old. It's, midlife crisis and na na na, and goes on. And you're like, I don't know what midlife crises are. I think for me, age is beautiful. And I feel very proud because if I was 22, I don't want to be 22, 23 years old. And I tell that to people, I don't want to be 25. I don't feel very proud. I was stupid that time. I'm much more smarter. I understand things better. I'm more matured. I know how to handle things. I know how to react to certain situations, whether it's work or whether it's family, life. And I think age is a big mindset. And if you embrace it gracefully, with courage, again, I think you'll go a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Tuesdays with Maury is very special to me. My book is based on Tuesdays with Maury.
Oh, that's so nice.
Oh,
We have a lot in
I
common
literally
then.
lived the whole story of Mish album when I was. So I used to fly down from Gurgaon to Coimbatore every 2 weekends and talk to my dad and take up his story and write it down. So that book is really special. It's been fantastic talking to you, Shivani. One last question. What's the question you have for me?
Tell me about yourself more at a personal level, more about what you do, how you got into this, and it's always nice to know because I know LinkedIn profile says something, but not everything.
I'm someone who's got an infinite urge to do everything. Right. My friends are amazed that I don't stop once I start, and I keep continuing new things. Personally, I've spent 25 years in the tech industry, 16 of them with 4 companies: Wipro, Microsoft, LinkedIn, Intel. The last 8 years, I've been a startup evangelist. I invest, advise, and mentor startups.
All right.
I'm a PhD scholar. I'm pursuing my PhD from IIM Kozhikode in
Oh, wow.
entrepreneurship. I'm a certified life coach. I just completed my ACC level certification and I'm practicing coaching. I'm an avid runner. I've been running full marathons. So done about 25 plus full and half marathons. And I completed the Ironman in Kazakhstan in August 22. Yeah, that's about me. So,
Congratulations. It's very
thank,
nice. And I
thank
kind
you.
of relate to what you said. You want to do everything and never stop. I think that's
Yeah,
something which I really abide by. And my friends, again, the friends, family, everybody finds it very, like they can't relate to what I want to do or what I think, how I want to just keep doing things, what I do. It's difficult to explain to people, and I can kind of relate to that.
right. Thanks a lot. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Pleasure as well, Leo. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for inviting me once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.